roast fans, and welcome to the Roast Babble. I'm your host, Luke Quitz, and today we've got a very special guest and distinguished roaster, Dan Wickes from New York. You guys already know, if you know anything about this guy. Welcome to the show, Dan.
What's up, Luke? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I won the Coney Island Comedy Festival, which might be where the confusion's coming.
Shit, that's what it was. In 2021, you won the Coney Island Comedy Festival. I wrote these notes like a doctor here.
It's all right. It was a career-changing moment, so I understand the confusion.
Man, you've performed at Skankfest. Your tweets have been featured on the front page of Reddit. You've been, which is like that's something in itself right there.
Where did this did I send you this, or was this some like on my website or something?
I did a little bit of homework before the interview. I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I forgot about this bio.
Oh man, there's all kinds. You host comedy night at the House Party Cafe, Popped Collar.
You host still happening.
You host Roasted at Grove 34 in New York.
Yep.
You do a lot of things. You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Like you've essentially gone from engineering software and programming software to engineering and programming events. I would love today to talk a bit about your journey and how you got there. What brought you there?
You want to start from the top?
Yeah, let's go right back to the beginning.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Long Island. Born in the North Shore of Long Island. My parents met because they have a mutual family member. It's my mom's aunt. Sorry, my dad's mom's cousin was my mom's uncle's mistress, and she introduced them.
Wow. That's a lot to take in. How long did you grow up on Long Island? Like, what was it? The comedy that made you move away, or did you move before that?
No, I went to school for software. I graduated in like 2014. Then tutored math for a year. Then got a job in the city, moved into the city, and after living in the city for a few months, working real hard at that job, like nights and weekends, it's basically poured my whole life into them. They canceled the app I was working on before I did my first release, and they didn't fire me, but it was like, okay, so if I did literally nothing, we'd be in the same place right now. So then I was like, all right, I want to try something. I want to not have my whole entire life be controlled by someone else who can do something like that. So then I took a class at the comic strip. It was like Sam Morril had shouted out on the radio. My friend would tell me about it. So I took the F. Sweedler's class. And then once it was over, I just started doing mics every day.
Oh, why comedy?
I'd always been a fan since I was like when I was in high school. I was like, you remember like back when people used to watch comedy movies and you would memorize the quotes and like drop them into conversations.
Yeah. Everyone's talking like they're in Austin Powers or something.
Yeah. So that was so I was that guy in high school because I thought that was like what the cool dudes were doing. So I was like, my parents had a DVR, so I just like recorded any movie when it came on, and I would watch them like over and over again to the point where I was like memorizing them. So I was watching stand up. I got really into like George Carlin. I got into like I found there used to be every comedy album used to be on Spotify, so I would Last FM find Bill Hicks, then I found Doug Stanhope. Anybody who like appeared on Louis' show, I would like get into, and then I would just like slowly watch more and more comedy.
Was it the comedy or the insult comedy that really drew you in?
It was the comedy. It was very much the comedy. The reason I got into roasting was just like being competitive. Like this might not be shocking, but I wasn't really an athlete. But what I was I play I used to play a lot of I used to play a lot of card games. Used to like be an athlete, which also probably not shocking, but the
I'm
I
surprised you weren't a quarterback then.
yeah, I just thought it wouldn't be fair to the other schools. The so it's like just all right, this is sick. It's a way to like prove I'm the best joke writer. I'm gonna do this. And I got asked to do it one time. Doing at time the biggest show in the city was Fight Club. Well, it was like there were two huge. There were all three of the shows were big at the time, like Roast Masters, Fight Club, and New York Comedy Club. Although New York Comedy Club kind of hadn't really figured its shit out yet. But yeah, I ended up doing a. I got asked to do a battle. I it went badly, but I won because it went worse for the other person. And this was not necessarily the best situation for me because it was the first round of a tournament, and she was very popular in the scene, and I was not. So people were kind of annoyed.
I heard this story. This is someone you were having a fling with at the time, if I'm right. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit more than. I mean, it hadn't quite really started yet. It turned into like a relationship, like a year and a half long. I'm still kind of feeling the reverberations from.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, when this is like a new thing that just happened. I could say this. I'm getting spots at a club right now, like the best spots I've ever had because the booker doesn't like this person.
Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, hell yeah for you, but it's shitty for her.
No, I mean, believe me, she's doing fine.
Oh, good.
So then next week, I'm in the next round of the tournament, and I'm battling a guy who's like kind of popular there. And then I just smoke him, and after that everyone's like, oh wow, who's this guy? And I kind of got a bit of a that was like my first bit of notoriety in the scene. It kind of felt like, when you show to a place and you're like a made man, like, oh holy shit, yeah.
Right. People know what you look like. They know your name.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, you've been at it for a while now. Like you've been through Roast Masters, Comedy Fight Club. Like you say, you've been to all of them basically. How long have you been battling now, man?
Now it's gonna be it's about 8.5 years, probably. Yeah, about a little between 8.5 and 9 years. Yeah, I started battling when I was like a month into comedy.
What are the differences? I'm curious. I've always sort of been curious and don't really know enough people in New York. What are the differences between the events, like between Roast Masters versus Comedy Fight Club? How is it set up differently? Is there sort of a different vibe in the club?
Well, they're all like they're all different shows. Like in terms of the audience is a big part of it, and because some of them just from the start, the ones that are comedy clubs versus the ones that are comics is the audience. They're at bars. Like Fight Club itself changed a lot over the years. When I first started, it was the show. Like every week, everybody in the scene would go to it, and it had a lot of energy, a lot based on that. And you would go because your friends would be on it, and also it was just a fun hang. Roast Masters was Lewis's show. It was very tied into the Skanks world. People would it was big online, although a thing that people don't realize is it wasn't always a huge live event. Like partly the shit sounds bad when you hit with the laughs because they didn't like the audience well, but partly because a lot of times there weren't a ton of people there.
Right.
Yeah, and the like energy of the comics at the bottom kind of fed up to fill those rooms. New York Comedy Club at the time was they were selling out because it was like the owner's favorite show, but they hadn't really figured out the formula yet in terms of putting on a good show. Like I went to the first one I ever went to, the main event was one of the guys bombed every joke, and it wasn't even like it was jokes like why did you need to say that out loud? It wasn't like kind of like it wasn't his night and the crowd didn't like him.
Right. Yeah. 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 Kind of holding the audience hostage.
Yeah, like I have a specific memory. He told this joke about the guy got divorced 3 times, and like the joke he went for was like the rule of 3 marriages because he's a comedian. The comic I'm saying next to him, like, I didn't get that, and I explained the obvious joke to him, and he clearly did get it. He just goes boo, like
Ah,
yeah, it was really bad. It was a horrible performance, and I don't think the guy roasted again after that. But this is actually my favorite story of New York roasting. My personal favorite one what happened, because James, so yeah, it's like Marin runs Fight Club, Pontillo runs New York. James used to write everyone's jokes at Fight Club.
Really?
Yeah, because he's autistic. But it kind of like there's always been like there's like it's like it's a thing that happens that you try not to talk about too much, that people give people jokes.
Yeah.
James, his protege, James is Dave Cyrus's protege a bit. Like he was like trying to help him out, like because he saw like, oh wow, you're pretty good at this, like, and like just starting out. And Dave would do that because it was like going back in the culture. People would give each other jokes, make the show better. And so James is so Machiavellian autistic. He thinks, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on shows. And it didn't work. It just turned into him being just bitter, like nobody. I don't get it. No, I help all these people. No one helps me. Just stupid James, retarded shit. But but it gets to the point where he's like basically writing the whole show. And there's like a bit of a butting heads thing with Matt, because him and the two of them have had like not gotten along for years. He bans James from the show. And at the same time this happens, Matt gets Roast Masters ends, and they take over, and they become the new Fight Club becomes the new Roast Masters, right? They put it on Gas Digital.
Okay.
So Matt was at the time helping book the show at New York Comedy Club. He tells the owner hates the stand, hates Roast Masters. He's like, you're done here. Fires Matt, never gives him another spot in New York again.
Wow.
Yeah, but then the owner knows, like, I can't book this show by myself. I'm not in the scene. I need somebody to help me out. He decides to take this dude who's like really into roasting, is there every week at the show. He makes James the booker. Yeah, so then New York roasting turns into this kind of like Leno Letterman late night 90s thing, where like these two guys who hate each other at these two clubs that hate each other are running the two biggest shows.
It feels like there was a shift at a point, and you battled James a couple of times. I want to talk about that later. But yeah, there's something there. Like it feels very underground and it did feel at Roast Masters, and it does at Comedy Fight Club. But there's a bit of like a super ego vibe going on too that I'm trying to get my head around. I'm a little bit new to Comedy Fight Club. I'm trying to get my head in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Fight Club is it fell off hard because there was a bit of controversy with also a thing that involved a girl, and then a lot of people quit the show. And Matt was like a little too loyal to some of his weaker battlers.
Right.
And it kind of ruined the show. A lot of the like Big J and Voss stopped judging it almost immediately once it took over. Yeah, and it just ended up being these podcasters that no one really knew, and it was kind of bad vibes. The show
so sort of like a more of a nepotism vibe than a showcase.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it even nepotism. Just I think it's more like bad. Because it's not like people were trying to get on the show then that weren't getting on. It's just kind of poor organization. And the show was doing terrible online because it was all like Skanks fans who loved Roast Masters. They're like, this isn't Roast Masters, this sucks. And eventually they got dropped. So then they kind of it's really kind of at this point a booked open mic. Like everybody in the room is on the show.
Wow. So what's the timeline on this? When's this going down?
This all happened in like I want to say 20 either 2017 or 2018. I think 2017, yeah. And now it's 2018 and into 2019, like over probably like 9 months to a year. This is all James getting his show. And at the time that this is all happening there, also like we're kind of like building up New York. It's James's show, but I'm like, me and him are tight, so I'm like kind of there covering a lot of his mistakes and also performing on the show all the time.
So at the
Like,
same time, are you like getting a bit of an education on how a club night is run?
I didn't pay enough attention to that stuff. Unfortunately, I was good. I was like learning a lot about how about just, well, yeah, I guess yeah, I guess I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to that. I would at that point my contributions was mostly like performing and just being around, but and it mostly ran itself very well, like because they were pulling an audience. James was like really all about it. He was running, like he had like a marketing person. The club was helping him with like giving him some money. So it was like packed on most weeks, and the battlers were great. He still books good battlers. It's just unfortunately some of the administrative stuff isn't as sharp as it was once upon a time. So RBL started about, so RBL's been happening about 3 years, but it really not a not as like a it was really just, you know, a podcast like 500 people were listening to. It wasn't like leading anything at the
Right, like
time.
verbal violence.
Yeah. Or well, that was verbal, I mean, verbal violence was happening back when everything was happening, that like all the Fight Club New York like stand drama was happening. That was when that existed. I was on that blog, like because me and James went to LA together, just to do some battles. We wanted to like battle LA battlers, and you know, like kind of like show up for New York. We both won, and it was like cool because the owner in New York like posted us like, "Yo, Dan Wickes and James Pontillo just repping New York, crushed it at the Belly Room."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, and yeah, so that and it was also, it was funny for two other reasons, because one, it happened while I was going through my breakup, and things weren't necessarily on the best of terms, and there were weird also weird stuff because us being part of Fight Club was such a big part of our relationship.
Mm.
And then on the other end, it fed like Matt's jealousy of James.
Right, here's James
But
going to LA to do
yeah,
battles.
like he comments on like one of the pictures, "We get it, you're in LA."
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, but so that's and at that time, like, verbal violence existed, but it wasn't roast masters. Like, people they didn't really have a huge online fan base. Most people have been into roasting on the internet for a while were into roast masters.
Right.
Yeah, and then there are like some offshoots, like, because people remember me as a roast masters guy. I wasn't really a roast masters guy. I did like 3 battles. I won all of them, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
also like two of them were at Soho Playhouse, which was the interim venue when the stand was shut down. And it was like very much when the show was on the outs. People really remember. It's a bit of a Mandela effect thing, because I think people are like putting together in their heads watching my New York Comedy Club battles, which were contemporaneous, and also being on some Fight Club stand battles.
When you went to LA to battle, is that the Pontillo battle with you and him that is on your webpage? The first one.
No, that was a New York Comedy Club.
Okay. There was a moment there where, my God, there was like a 3-minute audience reaction. How did
Yeah.
you get through that? What was that like, standing on stage and just waiting for that to be over?
It was awesome. I mean, it was. I felt like it was gonna happen before. I knew that joke was either gonna just like bomb or just totally destroy the room. Because it's even Pat recognized when I was watching. It was like, it has a bit of like disabled kid hitting a 3-pointer energy, which is yeah, which was what I was going for, because I mean, it's like a double entendre, like beating a guy and also fucking a hot chick is when you're present as I do, people are gonna react in a certain way.
Oh yeah,
But
no, you had the element of surprise. You like, yeah, that joke crushed. That was crazy. That moment is hard to
yeah,
forget.
yeah, and also it just but yeah, waiting. It wasn't like waiting so much. It was like it was more like it felt the opposite. It felt like the game was slowing down. Like, you know how they say, like, when you're like really good at, when for like pro players, when they take, like, in basketball, when they take another level, like they just can process things faster, and that's why when James kind of like got shook a little bit, and he tried to like make his little snide comment like, "Oh, you were only." How could this be? How could you be destroying me when you asked me to do this? And I was like, oh, because unlike you, I get consent. I was like so ready to just, and then I just blew up the room again.
Man, that's one thing I've got to say, that like you keep so calm on stage that it seems like that's a part of the strategy. It catches people off guard when you have a rebuttal like that. Like it's like a shark jumping out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it feel, and when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. Like I bombed one really hard last year. That one, thankfully, we never had to put the video out. But it was if I it does work a lot based on I do work a lot about being like, the whole thing's about being liked. Essentially, this is essentially at its core a competition of the audience is looking at two people, who do they like more.
Yeah.
And I make people feel a lot of things. Like people are not in the like, this is just looking at a guy. Usually they love me, but once in a while they don't fuck with what I'm doing at all.
So are you like making reference to your mannerisms because you deal with Tourette's?
Yeah, or like being just looking like this weird guy, because I think my appearance played into a lot too. Because last year I had like the beard, I had like the dyed hair, and especially when I was like not looking great. Yeah, like it goes from looking like an awkward dude to like looking like a schizophrenic. That's not like a great
I understand. Yeah, no, I mean, we can't all be 100% of the time, but I very much get what you mean there, because your tics are attached to your headspace, right? So if you're stressed out, they're going to manifest more.
Yeah.
Like, is that like if you're doing bad on stage, does that intensify the symptoms?
If anything, it's the opposite. Like I'm kind of feel the energy of the if like things are going well, I feel the energy of the room, and it becomes adrenaline, and then
Okay,
I start shaking more and stuff. But like if like
let's
I'm
get charged.
bombing, then I'm just kind of like, just feeling low, and it's just like there's nothing the it's not coursing through my veins.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's that makes sense that it's an energetic thing.
Yeah, and also it's also it's a weird thing too, because it's almost like doing it's like in a way it could be it's in a way it's like taking power up, but it's also like not, because it has to be done at the right time. I'm just saying like power up's not the right word, but if I've had battles where if I come out too strong, like with like the shaking and stuff, then it's a turn
Yeah.
off, especially depending on the judges. If the judges don't fuck with it, then they can really be like, well, what the fuck, or why are you doing that? And then they just like work to turn the whole room against me.
Right. So, uh, because you present as having Tourette's, do you get pigeonholed as a comedian with Tourette's, or can you just be a comedian? Like, do you feel like you're stuck with people seeing you for what's going on, not for who you are?
Yeah, I think that I do. I mean, at this point, I've been, this is the only way I've known how to be. So I guess I kind of lean into that with my writing and how I present myself and perform. I didn't used to, like in my older battles, I wasn't necessarily trying to do the weird stuff and lean into like shaking. I would like try to stay very still. And even then, I still came off as like the weird dude, something's off. So I don't know if I want to say pigeonholed, because I like to think of it more as like, all right, this is the thing that maybe makes me stand out a bit. But I
I,
do think that if I was just trying to go up and be like, and be like a pretty down the middle, like I can't even think of who's like a Tom Cotter, like who's like a normal comic that people
yeah,
think
yeah.
of. Like I don't know if I could really be like a guy who people aren't watching, be like, all right, something's a little odd about that guy. I just have to control and make sure they're like, okay, that's good odd. It's like interesting. It's not like, makes me uncomfortable.
I find it interesting too, the dynamic there in the entire comedy world. It's like there's this fucking razor's edge of acceptance and prejudice.
Yes.
And I know it gets talked about all the time because there are so many people of so many cultures and persuasions involved in roasting and comedy. But like that's so real to me. It can ruin a room so fast when both of those dynamics clash.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, 100%. That's a great way. I've thought of that too, about how I walk the fine line both in roasting and in comedy. Because when I perform, because I'm also like making fun of myself. Like some of my best roasts are like I'm also getting hit very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Like, and that's what makes me mention your rebuttals too. Like, sometimes your opponents are sure that they've just flattened you, and you get right back up, like, and crush them. It's a beautiful thing to see. I like when expectations get subverted in real time.
Yeah.
Now that we're in it, like we're talking about sort of your roles within everything. What is your affiliation with the Roast Battle League currently?
I'm co-president of New York. The way that happened was basically so when Pat was starting the league, he wanted to start he wanted New York Comedy Company. I'm sorry, he wanted New York to be one of the cities, obviously. And at the time, there are two shows that people know about. There's James's show at New York, and there's Fight Club. And so he asked for advice. Someone tells him like that New York is the better show, which it is because like it's a show at a comedy club that sells tickets. It's not a booked open mic that's performed for the people in the room who were performing, you know. But he's talking to James, and what he doesn't like is he doesn't like the format at New York, which makes sense because they won't budge on that. It's like the owner is very strict about it. He likes that it sets it apart, and he likes that he feels that like in the shorter battles you can't definitively say who's better, that there's too much chance in it because New York is all 3 round battles.
Roast Battle used to be more like that too, though, like before the current rule set was in play.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's cool that they do their thing and that other shows do other things. I think it's cool to have variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even though like not everyone can carry for 13 jokes, when it's great, it's the best. Like I think that the best battles at New York are the best battles, period.
Yeah, I love seeing when two performers can work with each other on stage, like that back and forth dynamic, and allowing the audience to participate in the middle of it all. It really heightens it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and also like people's biggest complaint about roast battling is versus because people are like, "No, I like Deus roast, where everyone knows each other instead of just two people who don't know each other and the audience doesn't know them." But when you're up there longer, you can get to know people.
It turns it into more of a showcase. I find like it seems to me anyway that's exactly what it is. Like one comedian showcases their writing skills and whatnot. It's not like throwaways. You
Yeah.
know, now throwaway rebuttals have taken the place of joke writing for a lot of battles. It's like, yeah, but you look like X throwaway celebrity from Wish.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah, exactly. If you're doing 13 jokes, you can't do that 13 times in a row. So
yeah,
you gotta like go a little deeper.
yeah, like you'll bomb if you try that long form or even for a solid minute. Right?
Yeah.
Uh, talking about that, like you've been on both sides of the stage now. You've been a judge and you've been a battler. So, from the fans' point of view, it looks like there's a huge difference between the writing format for judging and battling. But to me, it feels a lot like they're both just hosting in a way.
Yeah.
So, how different are they? How similar are they to you?
Well, unfortunately, when I judge, I don't write anything. Everything is just I'm reacting to what's happening in the room. one time I was like, all right, we're like a film production. We got to take this seriously. Let's write some jokes beforehand. It was just so hard to motivate myself because when something goes well, when you don't have to put any work into it, it's so hard to be like, all right, now I'm going to put work into it. Like, why would I do that? It went great when I didn't put any work into it.
Yeah, it's there's something about overworking things too. Like I write, I produce music, I do all kinds of things. That doesn't matter, but you can spend too long on a project and just destroy it. Like take
Yeah.
all the magic out of it by trying to improve it. You
Yeah.
know, that makes a lot of sense. Like judging to me feels more like a reaction to the presentation, and being on stage is the presentation.
Yeah.
You know,
But
like the judges are reaction videos, basically.
yeah, but I'll give some people some credits because I know judges who do pre-write their jokes and they end crush with them. It's just not me, you know. But yeah, so he goes to James and he doesn't like the format. But I had started my show like about a year before that, and part of the way I started it was I told James like, "Yo, like," because my friends had opened up Grove. These were guys I knew. They used to run a room in Rhode Island, and then they moved to Queens. They opened a club, and they wanted me to run a show there, but I really want to produce a show in Queens and have to like get audience in. So I was like, all right, what's a great way to have a show where you don't have to get audience? Oh, what about a show? What if I had a show where I could book 20 people on every show? So I'm booking 8 battles, 4 judges, a host. Already the room's full before we even start promoting.
Right, it's a built-in audience.
Yeah, and also it solves the problem of James has no way to find talent for his show because I mean this is really the core of and maybe this isn't something I should be saying on the recorded thing, but Fight Club's just
We'll edit it
bad.
out. We'll
Like
leave it
it's
in.
just yeah, like it rewards bad comedy. It's a place. It really is just a place for people to just say slurs and like it's not about good joke, right? It's about you say the word AIDS and they chant AIDS. It makes people. There's certain stage time that I think makes people worse at performing and writing, and I think that's one of their places. One of those
Mm.
places. Like if I book anyone from Fight Club, they always bomb.
That's interesting. Like, there's definitely a dynamic there between comedy for the art of it, or the love of it, you might even say,
Yeah.
versus the power, fame, recognition, and money that
Yeah,
comes
but
along
although
with
what's
it.
funny is you say power, fame, recognition, and money, but it takes not like it could even it's even just feeling cool because this isn't getting them money, this isn't getting them fame or power. It just makes them, if anything, it is a roadblock to those things.
Right. Yeah. It puts you in arrested development. I've met a lot of people in my life. I've done a lot of traveling, and if you don't mature past where you were in high school, you hit arrested development. Like I so much love about roast battles, seeing comedians grow as artists, as writers, as comedians, as performers all around. It's not great to see guys having the same party every week and doing it for scene points. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm
Uh,
even doing this podcast is to support the growth of comedy and showcase writers.
yeah, although I would say even what you're saying, if it was for Steam points, that would be an upgrade. It's
Steam
literally
points, Steam points, Steam points. Yeah, you can unlock a badge with
oh.
with your Fight Club battle.
Oh, that was a yeah. I said scene, but that's funny too. Yeah, that would also be an upgrade. But just people, it's so bizarre. People are like making comedy harder for themselves. They're like, they're making themselves worse at joke writing. They're not going out and being around people who are going to help their career, all to make something that's not art. To make just calling a guy a fag. Like it's
Yeah, that's something that is in the front of my mind lately, because there's really, the gray area is shrinking. The more that people just saying slurs and going ooh hoo hoo on stage gets televised, gets shine, gets on video and put out there, the more that line is being drawn.
yeah,
Like, I mean, you look at performers that are trans on stage in the roast battle world. Holy shit, the things they're dealing with now openly, it's unreal to me.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's actually been an interesting booking challenge too, because I've kind of dipped into the kind of queer comedy scene with booking my show more than any of the other roast shows really historically. It kind of sucks that we lost a lot of them. They used to really, when I started the show, they were the backbone of the show
yeah,
because it was I was like this was post pandemic. Everybody, all these people started comedy like during the pandemic, and there's this whole scene of like Brooklyn kids that don't really necessarily interact with the larger comedy world, and a lot of them are like young and queer. And a lot of these mics were in backyards and stuff. I was just going to them just because I lived around, and because I was like a seasoned comic where they were new. I was just killing it, and it kind of gave me a bit of cachet, and I was able to cash that in by getting all these people like so psyched to do whatever I tell them, which is do my roast show.
yeah.
And it was
Well,
also something that was very cool is, you know how like a lot of queer comedy is like just someone going like, oh, I'm bisexual, and like the thing about being bisexual is that it's just
yeah.
nonsense. It's not like structured shit. I got to put these people in a situation where they have to write a setup punchline joke.
That's huge mentorship within the community. That's like so grassroots and very cool of you to do, in my opinion, man.
Yeah, and it was awesome. A lot of them like really exceeded expectations, and it was really cool. Unfortunately, a lot of them haven't stuck around because they just are doing other things. And it's really the real problem is it's a lot to get people to come to Astoria. It's so out of the way. It's like an hour trip.
Are any of them still performing with you, like getting booked at your
Some of them
shows?
do. Like I still got like Sonny LaPrade is still a part of the show. Like like I had like Carson Olshansky is coming back around. It's just the thing is it's more like I have individual performers now instead of just like a whole lot of them just coming to hang out the way they used to. But also that's another part of that. Just that's the evolution of any show. You want at some point like having a bunch of comics hang at your show every week is not sustainable. You have to at some point start moving tickets, and that's what we're doing, which is very cool because that's not a thing that exists in New York. New York has a real ticket problem compared to other cities in terms of roasting. Part of that is because most of it because there's just so much shit every night in New York. Like you're competing with a million shows, you're competing with Broadway, you're competing with clubs and stuff. Whereas if you're like in a smaller city, sometimes it's the only thing that's happening.
Is there a lot of gatekeeping in the scene if you want to start something new? Like, are there people telling you, "Oh, don't even bother trying to start; you won't get anywhere," or is it like fairly like, "Hey, there's a lot going on, but you go for it, you do you."
Because you can find your own audience just through the internet and just trying putting up flyers even. So in that sense, there's nothing. The gatekeeping is more in terms of getting into clubs, getting into like established places. But in terms of just starting a show, there's none.
Nice. That's great. That's like a clean buy-in.
Yeah. Although given I was very strategic when I started my show because I remember the mistakes of the past and I didn't want there to be any bad blood where like I start this show and I'm like all of a sudden I'm banned from New York Comedy Club. I was very much not only was I doing it in collaboration with James. James originally was supposed to be producing it with me, but then he like got cold feet, so he ended up not wanting to do it. And I messaged but I started it. I had James judging the first one. He actually lived upstairs at the time, and he even messaged me after like, all right, I was wrong. I'm sorry. You were right. This is awesome. But I talked to the owner at New York. I was like, told him like, hey man, I just wanted to let you know, I was thinking of starting a roast show. It's going to be it could be like a feeder because right now there's no place for James to get any comics to do his show, but it's going to be all the way in Astoria, so we're not competing, we're not stealing audience from you and all that. And then he ended up talking to James about it, and he was like, yeah, I think a feeder is a great idea. And he was like all gung-ho on it after that, so we got good relationships there.
So, how long has Roasted been going now?
Now it's it's a little over 3 years.
I'm jumping all around in the conversation, so my question sheet makes no sense anymore.
Yeah.
But I love that. It's like we were talking about with judging. I like more organic than an advertisement for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We talked about your early favorites. Were you a Friars Club fan early on, like the old Dean Martin, Don Rickles, all those guys?
Honestly, never. I've never watched any of the Friars Club's ones. I watched a lot of the New York. So I watched a lot of the Comedy Central ones. Like those,
Okay.
those I was into. Like Greg Giraldo. Like the Patrice one at when he closed out the Charlie Sheen roast. Yeah, like those. Like I grew up on on the New York on the Comedy Central ones, not so much the Friars Club.
That's interesting too, because like you're a fan of some of the guys from back then, like maybe just after then, I guess Carlin and whatnot. But yeah, interesting that you haven't ever really watched the Friars Clubs one.
Yeah, I'm a bad comedy nerd. I was like better at it before I started. Since I've started doing comedy, I like barely watch comedy just because I'm out every night, also between day job and doing this all night. And just you watch all this comedy when you're on shows, at mics, you just kind of burn out of it. Like when I'm by myself, I'm mostly like playing video games.
Yeah, I get that. But you instead of taking it in, you're putting it out there. Like you're living comedy now. This is
Yeah.
what it looks like. You've gone as far as starting your own shows. You're mentoring people. You're in it. Like, I mean, if New York had to have a people's champion, you've made a great case for yourself today, Dan.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And you just got back from judging one of the new cities, hey?
Oh, actually, and he moved my date.
Oh no.
It's for the best because he wanted to be able to book me on a showcase. So like when I'm in Connecticut, I'm like doing both, and he just wasn't able to book the showcase last night, so he moved me to February. Okay, great, yeah, but yeah, I did it once, and he does a great job. He like fills that room. Ish is it's very cool because he's in a sense newer to the roast world, but he has the most useful feeder show to me, which is
Okay.
crazy. That it's a guy in Connecticut that who just started his show like not even a year ago.
The most useful, you say?
Like in terms of if I've booked people who I've seen do well on his show, and then they come and they do well on my show.
Okay, so you like the best sort of talent farm.
Yes.
Nice, very very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen like Charity's battles. She's from his show. She got Battle of the Week a few weeks ago on our channel. Same thing with
Okay,
Michael Lagoon. Yeah, Michael Lagoon Biade. He was our most recent Battle of the Week, and he did. I met him doing Judge Anisha's show.
What's next? What's next for Dan Wick?
The big thing is we're about to start our tournament, our winter tournament, which is the first thing we've done like that. It's going to be it's going to be an ambitious project, and we're kind of learning a lot while we do it. We're making sketches. We're making we're having a big cash prize. Winner gets $1,000. We're putting like a lot into production. We're gonna be trying to make like videos, like hyping these things like UFC fights, making people like get in front of a camera with Scott doing a bunch of editing. My co-producer, he's very talented with the with production, and we're just trying to like elevate what like an online production can look like in roasting, and hopefully we're successful at that.
Hell yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. That's awesome to hear. It's growing so fast. There's new cities this year. I'm sure there will be again next season, and I mean, we've got 2 leagues going on. There's so much going on that it's like I'm turning into a bad comedy nerd. I can't keep track of everybody. There's roasters all around the world now. Do you have any favorites for the new cities or existing cities even?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to new cities, I'm going to be biased and say Hartford because I've been there and I've seen the show, and each does a really good job. I'm hoping that I've also done the Philly one, but it was very much when it was trying to get off the ground. They had like I think we performed in front of like 10 people, but but that was like a year ago. So hopefully Lou's doing a bit better. I love you know Lou I battled him, the suit guy. He used to be like a an LA mainstay. Yeah, yeah. And that battle actually did a lot for me. That battle is probably why I got it really put me on the LA radar, got me flown out for the Halloween first league show and then South by. So thanks to Lou for that.
Thanks, Lou, if you're out there. Digging a little deeper, narrowing down the lens to focus a little more. Any comedians in the league that you're watching and maybe even thinking about battling in the 2025 season? Are you booked to battle
Oh, for
anybody that you can
sure.
talk about?
I'm not booked to battle anyone yet. The big ones I got to take care of for me personally in the in my own city. I got to battle Scott because this has just been boiling up for too long. You know, he wants to prove something. I want to prove him wrong.
Oh yeah.
He's I want and he's gonna be hard. He thinks that he's hot shit, but it's like, come on, man, you're the video guy. What are you talking about?
Strong
He's
words. I hope he watches this all the way to the end because
yeah, yeah. And also, I got Babble Malia.
oh yeah, absolutely. She's been making waves too. It's interesting to see who gets elevated every season.
Yeah, I think she's gonna really like from day one put her foot to the gas and try to try to win the whole thing. Which she was which and she only really started trying like the last 3 months with like a coherent strategy and even still came very close. So I think that she's gonna if she can like knock off if she can beat the top guys at the thing, like if she can beat like Andrew or like John, that'll be it. Well, I mean, she probably won't battle John because she battled him last year, but
I would love to see that rematch though, for the record.
yeah.
Just John went so off format for that. Like I'm sure that there was a lot to reflect on for her as a performer after.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. She's kind of like newer to it, also, which I think is what you kind of saw in that battle. Like, well, she's got the writing. She doesn't have like John's like, he just set such a level of comfort. And I would say Divya, but I just don't think that she's driven towards in the same way. I don't think that she's someone who's gonna like try to be like, all right, get me these battles. I want to try to win this whole thing. She'll show up and she'll crush when she's doing it, but I just don't think that she's gonna like make it go out of her way to try to build the resume to win the whole thing.
Right, like she's doing a lot in the comedy world,
Yeah.
but does she want to be a stand-up
Yeah,
comic?
and that's the thing too. Oh no, I was gonna say not stand. I mean, she's doing a lot of stand up. She's like she gets like a lot of club spots. She's like out every night, which I think that's also why it's gonna be harder for her. It's like easier to do this stuff when you're not getting as many club spots. There's almost a rule that I like to tell people has been my own experience on both ends. At New York Comedy Club, you get to do when you're the main event, you do the check spot on the show before, and they book both like both of you do spots after the main show ends. And I tell people whoever has the better check spot loses the battle, because if you have the better check spot, you're in a stand up mode. You're like working all the time. You're polishing. You're like on stage, and all your time and energy is going to that. But if you have a shitty check spot, it means that you probably have a lot more free time, and you're really just so hyper focused on this roast.
So okay, that's interesting. And is a part of your want to battle Malia to sort of gauge that, like gauge where she's at with battling and her dedication to it, or
No, I
is it
know, I know.
is
I
it
think she's
purely a writing contest for you?
yeah, purely writing contest on that one. I think I'm probably going to lose because I honestly I've like defended I've like kind of curated my image a bit by kind of like avoiding women for the most part because it
Right.
is like a harder thing for me because I get so much of my appeal is like this kind of underdog type thing, and it's hard to have people root for me against like a girl. sometimes it works. Like my Grace battle, it's still, she's like so unlikable that it didn't matter. Yeah, but like it's writing, battling Malia is going to be a real challenge, just because of like presentation. I'm going to have to like come at it with this real strategy that I haven't like thought about enough. But it's it's going to be very much a writing exercise, and also I want to do it because I don't want to be a bitch. I want to be running away from challenges.
Hell yeah. And you sound like you're on a really good path in life right now with everything you've got going on. I mean, we just met, but you're doing a lot, man, and don't stop. Like the comedy world needs heroes, and you're on a path to it.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, and it's so, yeah, and that's also true. That I just want to put out good shit, you know, because there's so much content online. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I started a podcast. Everyone and their dog has a podcast. I don't know what I'm doing, but
yeah, but you're trying at least. It's not like it's, and people aren't going to click on your reel because you got like because they think that you're hot. Sorry, or that you got like some dumb clickbait title, or because you're like being like Joe Rogan is gay, you know, like something stupid that, and like. I think everyone I work with is really funny. I think they're worth uplifting. Like, it's something that's cool about Andrew getting the MVP in New York. He actually is a roast masters guy. He has old battles up there when he's like 19 years old. He's killing it. He's an incredible joke writer. We did like this 100 new jokes thing at Grove, where like for the new year, do a new joke, and Andrew had the best joke by far, and it was like clearly a new joke also, which a lot of people weren't doing. They were just doing whatever old joke just to look cool in front of the comics. Yeah. So yeah, like anything to like help a guy like that is really, really great.
hell yeah, man. The same thing here. Like it's all about elevating what you guys are doing now. For me, it deserves to be recognized. You guys deserve to be recognized. Every single person involved in the production in every city at this point. And I want to create that transparency. You know, I'm very thankful to you for coming on today and talking about everything so candidly.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. Anything to like to uplift the league, uplift the roasting in general is great. Yeah, so thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Anything to plug? What are your socials? What's going on?
Yeah, socials. Follow me at Dan_Wickes on all platforms. I'm gonna try to post more reels. I'll try to get back into tweeting. I haven't really been doing a lot of that. Also follow at roasted_grove34 on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to, you know, we're competing with everyone. We want to bury fuck Chicago, fuck LA, New York. We're reclaiming the throne. Roast Masters was number one for a reason. The same reason we're going to be number one.
There you go. Strong words from the man himself, Dan Wickes, today on Roast Babble. I hope everyone's ready for 2025 because Dan sure is. All right. Have a great day, Dan. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Dan Wickes has jokes so clean. Long Island, every scene. Coney Island's crown he wore. At South by Southwest he soared. On Reddit stars align. Front page laughing all the time. Tweets that make the crowd go wild. Joke after joke, he's the golden child. Stars align, front page laughing all the time. Tweets that make the crowd go wild. Joke after joke, he's a golden child. From clubs to fast, he takes the mic. Each punchline lands just right. Witty tweets and comic flair. Gonna laugh till we lose all care. On Reddit, stars align, front page laughing all the time. Tweets that make the crowd go wild. Joke after joke, he's a golden child. Comedy's past and present blend. With every joke, Dan's our new best friend. He sets the stage with the beam so bright. All our troubles fade in the night. On Reddit, stars align, front page laughing all the time. Tweets that make the crowd go wild. Joke after joke, he's the golden child.